Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. Now, this film is called Stargate Brighton, and those of you who have been watching Herpanwo TV for some time will probably remember that a couple of years ago I uploaded another film called Stargate Brighton. I had to remove that film for reasons I'm going to talk about. But first of all, let me say that this film you're watching now is not just a remake. It's more than a remake. I kind of go over old ground because I do visit the scene and location where I was filming before. For the scene where I'm talking about Montreal Road and that area, that is back in it again. But I've added some more on. There's some more information. There's some extra little bits and some updates of what I think are related subjects. Now, the reason I took the old film down is because it features Heidi. Now, if you don't know who Heidi is, I'm not going to identify her, I'm not going to tell you her surname, I'm not going to provide you any links to her website, but regular viewers will know who I mean by Heidi. The bad news is Heidi and I fell out a couple of months ago, for reasons I explained in my video, The Shill Squad. If you go down to, scroll down my list of videos, you'll find The Shill Squad. I go into it in detail there. I respond to several videos Heidi made about me, that's kind of where we were for a while. I mean, the good news is we've kind of made up. We're on speaking terms, put it that way. And the other day we spoke on the phone for some time, and we had a fairly reasonable conversation. It was heated at first, but soon calmed down. But Heidi has made a video on her channel talking about that phone conversation, and again, she's saying some very strange things. She's saying that I'm trying to silence her. In the description box of the video she said I supported the Tories in the election. Where did she get this information from? I didn't vote in the election. I actually wrote some material on the Herpanwo Voice blog explaining why I was boycotting the election. Now, so I don't know where she gets this information. She's accusing me of trying to silence her. This is not true. What I did was, I didn't say she should be silenced. I didn't say she should come off the internet, which is what she's accusing me of. I told Heidi that she should take time out from the truth movement, and I think she should do it for her own sake, for the sake of her health. Heidi's going through a very difficult situation with her family right now, and it's hitting her hard. And I don't think I'd be a good friend to her if I didn't try to say what I thought was best for her. If she disagrees with me, that's fine. She's a grown woman. She doesn't have to do what I tell her. She's not my daughter. But I wouldn't be fair to her if I wasn't telling her what I thought was right for her. And this is where I feel guilty, because I think, in a way, I sold her the poison. Because I know from dealing with other people in the truth movement that it can cause you a lot of damage. The information that comes at you can be very, very difficult to deal with, and it can be psychologically traumatic. And the thing is, Heidi, I think, is one of these people who has been hurt by the truth movement in that way, and I should have told her a couple of years ago to cool down, to slow down a little bit. I mean, this is not to say she wasn't doing some excellent work. She is. I mean, she's doing some brilliant work now, exposing the Jehovah's Witnesses. So hats off to her for that. But she's no use to anybody if she doesn't look after herself and she doesn't take care of her own health. And I thought I was a good friend to Heidi because I took care of her. When she needed taking care of. I was there on the end of the phone when she needed someone to talk to. I defended her when she was attacked by some very nasty people. I never tried to get her into bed, which is what a lot of blokes she knows have tried to do. And I thought that was enough. I thought I was being a good friend to her, but I wasn't. I was encouraging her involvement in the truth movement when I shouldn't have been. I should have been warning her against it. So, in a sense, I think I led her partly into the situation she's in now, and I'm very sorry about that, Heidi. I really am. I've taken down all the videos which had Heidi in, including the original Stargate Brighton, which was uploaded 2 years ago. The reason was primarily, it was because I heard, this is when Heidi and I were completely not speaking at all. I heard from somebody that a person, who I won't name, had approached Heidi and was trying to persuade her to take out a privacy violation complaint on YouTube against me. This is a person who doesn't like me, was trying to use Heidi in her very vulnerable state of mind as a weapon to attack me, which I think is not only very vicious against me, it's very vicious against Heidi. And this person, you know who you are if you're watching, you should feel ashamed of yourself. Heidi, to her credit, did not. But as a precaution, I removed the videos with her in, and maybe I was also motivated by what I said was like before, I feel guilty about getting her involved when I shouldn't have. That's another reason. So this is the new Stargate Brighton 2015 edition, with all the updates and a lot of additional information and a new improved location scene. So I hope you enjoy it. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV. Well, today Hapanwo TV viewers, I'm in Brighton and I'm at a place called Montreal Road, which is in the Hanover area. It's right on the top of a hill here, quite a steep hill. The reason I'm here is because a very unusual news report was actually published by the local newspaper here, the Brighton and Hove Argus. And I'm just going to read it to you now. This was published on Sunday the 12th of May 2013, so this is over 2 years ago now, and it was by Anna Roberts, who's a crime reporter. Council bosses have been left mystified after reports that a portal to another dimension has opened in a residential street in Brighton. A member of the public reported to Brighton and Hove City Council that the wormhole or vortex had opened up in Montreal Road, Hanover, on May the 2nd. They made a report via the website Fix My Street, which is more typically used to report potholes, dump rubbish and broken lampposts. The anonymous poster said, "I was recently walking my Affenpinscher," that's a toy breed of dog, around the Hanover area of Brighton when I noticed that a wormhole or vortex has opened up on Montreal Road. On closer inspection, it seems to be some kind of portal to other times, places and dimensions. I would have investigated further, but I was concerned for my little dog, that it would be sucked into it. Ah. Is this meant to be there? Good question. At first I believed it might be part of the Brighton Festival, but I believe it could be a hazard to the general public. I look forward to your response. The same person followed up with a report the following Thursday saying, "The other day I reported the presence of some kind of wormhole or vortex on Montreal Road. I went past the other day and it seems to have got worse. It's now emitting an unsettling yellow light and a large snake appears to be emerging from the wall. I'm concerned that this is a passage to another time or dimension, and if this snake is anything to go by, I'm worried what else might emerge from the wormhole. Can anyone suggest a course of action to take?" Brighton and Hove City Council told the Argus that they will not be investigating the report. Commenting on Fix My Street previously, the council said, "We welcome reports through any means residents choose, and as a council provide many ways through which the residents can raise issues directly, ranging from post, online or by telephone." I'm just going to take a walk down this little road here. I've not seen anything interdimensional actually since I've been here. Apart from these strange windows down there. I don't know if that is does this count as interdimensional? There's like a window. There's some green creature down there, but I think it's a model of the Incredible Hulk. There's like these windows in the ground leading for basement flats and things like that. But this was extremely unusual. This reached the mainstream media. There's something like this. I thought it might be some kind of novelty story. because the fixmystreet.com website is, as it says, it's there to report faults with local government services. It's not. So if you found a broken street lamp or an overflowing dustbin, you'd go there. But this is very, very unusual. I'm looking around. If I see anyone walking an Affenpinscher dog, they're little small furry dogs, I'll stop them and talk to them. But I haven't actually. So this person realised they encountered a wormhole or vortex, a portal to other times, places and dimensions. It didn't actually reveal how the person perceived this supposed vortex, but there's some clues in the witness testimony. For instance, the witness said that they thought that what they saw was, they thought at first that it might be one of the decorations for the Brighton Festival. And now Brighton, this is just one of the many festivals and carnivals and Mardi Gras that Brighton is famous for. So, that leads me to assume that this phenomenon was visible to the naked eye. That's the impression I get. And they were also very concerned for the safety of their dog. This person worried their poor little doggy might get sucked into this wormhole. And they left the scene as a result. And then later on, they claim that the vortex was emitting a yellow light. Well, they may have just been looking at that house over there. I don't know. It's hard to say. Emitting a yellow light. And there was a snake emerging from it. Or from one of these walls. They say a snake emerging from the wall. Which wall? One of these walls, presumably. No, there's been no other witnesses to the event I'm aware of. No other reports have come in the media about this. So it's hard to know what to make of this, especially because the person wrote back again, and they say a snake is coming out of it. Now, if it was a snake that was visible to the naked eye to everybody, it would be very, very apparent, and more people would be reporting it, I'm sure. Now, at first glance, this might seem like some kind of novelty story. Yeah, this they do sometimes. They publish these sort of things in the news. You get these things in the news when the serious news stories are over. They sometimes come up with something crazy at the end just to make the viewers laugh. But there's signs here that there's no tone of mockery. That's the strange thing. And there's signs here that there's more going on than that might first appear. Now the Huffington Post mentions this as well, and they always cover stuff like this. But you don't get a tone of mockery to it, if you know what I mean. For instance, the original author of the article, the person who first picked this up, was the journalist's name, Anna Roberts. She is the crime reporter on the Argus. She's not the light entertainment light entertainment correspondent. So this is a very important point to make. Okay, the tone. This article has a disquieting timbre of severity. So I've got to ask myself: is it possible that a person really did see a portal to another dimension here? You've got to ask that question. There's a laundrette. That's nice. You don't see many of them nowadays. It can come in handy. This is what's interesting. The most interesting part of the report, probably, and the most credible aspect of it, is the snake. This person might not be aware of it. I don't know, but serpentine creatures are commonly and repeatedly reported in aspects of many altered states of perception, like LSD trips, occult rituals, etc. And almost anyone who experiments with psychedelic substances and some kind of extreme magic spell is going to, at some point, is going to encounter a serpentine being of one sort or another. A good example is Graham Hancock, who encountered the spirit of ayahuasca, who appeared to him as a huge blue snake that wrapped itself around his body and stared into his eyes. Now, the book Supernatural 2005 is the book to read in that respect. Now, snakes have a reputation of evil. from the Satan in the Garden of Eden. And you get nasty people being called poisonous snakes, things like that. But that's a Western cultural association. It's not universal. Maybe this is to do with Christian propaganda. Now there's that roundabout. Now I'm not going to jump into it like I did in the original film. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. But I've reached the end of the road anyway. There we are, Montreal Road. There we go. That's Montreal Road. Let's take you down here and have a look around. It's very hilly, as you can see. There's a big steep hill. That's Quebec Street. And I think there's several other places around here that are named after places in Canada, which is quite unusual. You know, there's like Montreal. There's another. I think there's a Vancouver Street or something like that around here. I'm not sure. Now take a walk up the other side of the road. I didn't do this in the first film. Of course, you know that snake is a legless reptile. It's in terms of its physicality in our world. But in some cultures, snakes are seen as benevolent. They're seen as wise. And so people impose a familiar physical image on things, and this is one of the most common. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if anyone knows why that is. It's a big question. Now, the idea that this universe is more than anyone else. I mean, this is an important point, right? The idea that this universe is more than what we see around us. The dimensions of forward and backwards, left and right, up and down. There's 3 dimensions. Everything we see and can even think about is in 3 dimensions. Now the idea that that's not all that exists is now perfectly mainstream. Even that bloody Professor Brian Cox is talking about. Sorry, even he is talking about it. Now there's even a discussion about the Large Hadron Collider, because I'm going to say more about that later. All right, but the Large Hadron Collider comes into this. We brought this up in the first film when I was doing the movie with Heidi, and I want to bring that up again. But a good book, I'll tell you what, a good book to read is called Flatland. It's by Edwin Abbott. It's a really old book, written over 100 years ago, sometime in the 19th century actually, and it's very interesting because it talks about a universe which is like, it's as if the universe has just 2 dimensions. It's a 2-dimensional universe, just forwards and backwards, and that's why it's flat. And the idea, once you read that book, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But it could be that if you go beyond the third dimensional plane, if you go into the 4th dimension, you move into the 4th dimension, eventually you might encounter another plane of 3 dimensions. In other words, another universe like ours with 3 dimensions in it, space-time continuum. And cosmologists are now calling these membranes. They occupy different locations in the 4th spatial dimension. And it could be that under certain circumstances, our membrane could actually brush up against another one. And when that happens, you get a bleed over. And ghosts, UFOs, other paranormal phenomena could actually be explained by this bleed over between 2 dimensions, this brush up between our dimension and another one, or our universe and another universe within the 4th dimensional spatial plane. And could it be that lady who was walking her Affenpinscher dog on this road, Montreal Road, 2 years ago, actually perceived that? That's the question. In which case, is it a hazard? That's the question. Now, that's a big question I'm going to go into, because it could be a hazard, and it could be something beyond what fixmystreet.com could cope with, or Brighton Hove City Council have the means to deal with. I don't think it's something you could come along and pour a load of gravel into and tarmac over. I mean, the idea that that there are passages, either created naturally or artificially, between our membrane and others, exist is not out of this world at all. It's actually quite, like I say, it's mainstream, and it's not crazy. Whether this could be done using occult magical ceremonies, I mean, I've talked about that. The occult magical world, spells, creating passages to the other worlds where these demons and things come out. That's part of it. But also heavy industrial methods, scientific methods, or maybe a combination of the two. I'll be talking more about that later when I discuss the Large Hadron Collider, but there's the statue of Shiva outside CERN. Now, so really, if our dog-walking witness here 2 years ago saw something like that, then it is of concern to us. It is something that should be that might bother us, and maybe we should beware, because there is a hazard associated with these things. And I mean, one of the most interesting books about this is actually quite an old one. It's the Chronicles of Narnia. You might have seen the movies, you might have read Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and most people have read that book. Some people have read all the books, like I have. But it is about a journey to another world, and in the interdimensional sense. And one of the characters is called Uncle Andrew. And he says at one point, it's another world. Anything, you could find anything in another world. And that's true. If you make a passageway, if you drill a hole out of our membrane into another one, or if one appears accidentally, it seems to be the case here in Brighton, then anything could come out of it, and that could be dangerous. It's unpredictable, extremely unpredictable, what might happen as a result. And I'm going to talk a bit more about The Mist, this film, which explores a quite extreme example of the possibilities in that department. I'm back at the top of Montreal Road now. There's the pub there, the Montreal Arms, so cool because it's here. And there's the roads. There's the sign again, Montreal Road. It's a nice pub. Just had beer in there actually. It's very nice. Nice little pub. Anyway, I'm just more curious than worried, and I would like to put out an appeal for this person. If the person who reported this to fixmystreet.com is watching this video, could you please get in touch with me? My email address is on the Panmo TV blog. It's in links in the description box. I'd really much like to hear from you. Any information you give me will be treated in the strictest of confidence. Anyway, there have been no further complaints to fixmystreet.com or anyone else, or anything else like that, and no one has said any more. I mean, there is no official .gov webpage for dealing with the arrival of spontaneous stargates. So well, it's been 2 years now, nothing else has happened, so maybe it was just a one-off. Or maybe there's something else going on. Alright, maybe there's something else. And that is, I've got a friend who lives nearby here. I've got several friends who live near here who run a radio station like me. They're radio show hosts. It's called the Type 1 Radio Lounge. Steve Gaddafi and Fi Chick. And they covered this on their radio show, and they speculate that the whole thing is a joke. They speculate the possibility that even though they do admit that they do bring up the Large Hadron Collider and things like that, they do admit that this could just be a big scam, and it's to do with it's a satire basically of the fact there's lots of potholes in the road in Brighton. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've looked at this road here. It's not in bad nick actually. I mean, yes, there's a few little bumps and things, a few bumps and bruises, but I think you get that on roads anywhere. Is Brighton especially bad for that? Maybe anyone who knows could let me know, who lives here could let me know. Whether this is a regular event around Brighton, I don't know. I mean, Brighton is a generally non-conformist place, I must say. I mean, I've had a look. You can almost see it in these houses here. Interestingly, if you look further down the street here, they've got palm trees over there. If they've got palm trees, it could be that it's warmer on that side of the street than on this side of the street. If that's the case, then is the other side of the street in another world? Maybe that's the other dimension, or maybe I've moved into another dimension, in which case you won't hear this. But Philip Pullman is another great author who talks about this subject, and I do recommend his books to get a grasp of this. That's the Dark Materials trilogy. It's fictional, but it gives you an amazing insight and a brilliant insight into what this issue is that I'm talking about here. I really do recommend his books. And in one of the books, he talks about a place called Stargate, which is arrived at by going through a portal, a Stargate, a wormhole, vortex, whatever you want to call it, exactly like the type that is said to have emerged here. And you go through this vortex and you arrive at this place, which is like a kind of Mediterranean tropical climate, and it's called Stargate. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is if there's something about this area that actually, I think something being non-conformist is not a reason that these things would appear. It's not actually a reason to think that these phenomena are more likely to appear in this area than in others. But there is a place not far from here. It's actually in that direction, and it's called Clapham Woods, and it's literally just outside Brighton, actually. And that is a place where lots of weird stuff has been discovered. Now, if you just Google Clapham Woods, there's several books been written about it, actually. I might take my camera around there, but you've got to be careful, because some of the I will be careful when I do it, because some of the phenomena that have been observed in Clapham Woods are actually pretty scary and pretty dangerous. I mean, the truth of the matter is there are dangers associated with these kinds of phenomena. It's a fact. Who knows? Anyway, Panwo TV viewers, this is Montreal Road in Brighton. The possible location of a wormhole, vortex, Stargate, or whatever you want to call it, to another dimension, another world, another universe. And looking around here now, I wouldn't know it. I really wouldn't. Looks completely normal, very attractive actually, suburban street. You've got little flower pots there, which is really nice in the corner. And this here is an artist's depiction of what the female witness in Brighton at Montreal Road in Hanover saw. This is what she reported to Brighton and Hove Council via fixmystreet.com, and this is what the newspaper picked up on. A snake coming through a hole in the wall, or a wormhole, vortex, Stargate, whatever you want to call it. And I saw nothing like that on my visit to Brighton, and I didn't pick up anything like that on film. But what she experienced and what she reported is plausible. I'll explain. Because it has been reported that an unknown object has been found lying inside the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Now, I've written a lot about the Large Hadron Collider, and I think I've mentioned it in these films on Hapanwo TV. But it's a big long story. But if you go to the Hapanwo voice blog, you'll find a lot of material if you just Google CERN in the search box. But I think that instrument, that giant scientific instrument, is not what it seems to be. And I think here we might have evidence that it is having, I won't say unexpected side effects, but side effects that have not been published. Now, this object has been called the Unidentified Lying Object, ULO. That's what it's been nicknamed. And it's been detected inside the heart of the collider, inside the sealed vacuum pipe, right in the middle of the giant 17-mile circumference particle accelerator. It's exactly in there. It's just in the centre of it, in this complete vacuum, totally sealed off from the outside world. They found
this unidentified object. Like, it's a bit of sand in the camera. Yeah, I mean, the announcement was made very nonchalantly. Actually, there's no press release. A man called Professor Albert de Rook, good Dutch name now, or South African. He was at a lecture, and he just happened to mention it. And this was the online journal phys.org actually reported on this, and this is how this news got out. And this is what phys.org states. De Rook has in fact high expectations of the possibility of new discoveries that could change the current accepted theory of physical reality, the Standard Model. It will take only one significant deviation in the data to change everything, De Rook said. The upgraded machine works. Now we have to get the real operation for physics. But work remains to be done. One issue the accelerator physicists remain cautiously aware of, he says, is the unidentified lying object in the beam pipe of the LHC's 17-mile underground tunnel, a vacuum tube where proton beams collide and scatter particles that scientists then analyze for keys to unlock the mysteries of the Big Bang and the cosmos. Because the proton beam is sensitive to geometry of the environment, it can easily be blocked. The beam pipe must be free of even the tiniest amount of debris. Even something as large as a nitrogen atom could disrupt the beam. Because the beam pipe is in a sealed vacuum tube, it's impossible to know what the object is. The unidentified lying object turns out not to be a problem for the operation. It's just something to keep an eye on, De Rook said. It's in the vacuum tube and it's not a problem if it doesn't move and remains stable. I mean, the questions I'd like to ask Professor De Rook are endless. How did something manage to access the interior of this sealed chamber, where the particle beams flow? It is the most tightly controlled environment on Earth. And he talks about it like it's like getting a little bit of a fly in your windscreen washer on a car. That's the tone he uses. Why is it not a big deal to you, Professor? Because something like this should be physically impossible. I mean, forget the Standard Model. This phenomenon alone should make every physicist in the world sit up and think again. How big is this ULO? If you can't see it, then perhaps you should equalize the tube, open it up, and look at the anomaly. Are you curious? Are you worried? Why not? I should give you a bit of background, actually, because the Large Hadron Collider was built quite a number of years ago. I reported on it when they first set it up, and it did a lot of very high energy collisions, which resulted in the discovery of the God particle, the Higgs boson, which was first theorized over 50 years ago and then was finally found in 2012. And then in January 2013, the LHC was shut down to be refitted. Now it's upgraded and it started again, and it's been made to run at twice its original power. It was originally run at 7 tera electron volts. It's now going to be run at 14 tera electron volts. And this whole operation has been given a rather demure name. It's just been called Run 2. So it's going to push the boundaries of known physics, and everyone at CERN is really excited. I can't wait for the switch on. Yeah. And they hope to solve mysteries about what dark matter is, things like that. But concerns began about this whole thing, and there's Walter Wagner. All this is on the Herpanmo Voice blog, but there's many concerns about the possible dangers of CERN, of the LHC at CERN. One is that the protons might produce mini black holes, which could engulf the Earth, or they could produce strangelets, which is a different type of matter that has the power to convert normal matter it comes into contact with into copies of itself. This could result in the Earth being mutating into a strange star. And it has, of course, the CERN denies all this, and one of its most vocal defenders is that Professor Brian Cox. But I mean, they are going into a situation where they're completely blindfolded. Even His Royal Coxness admits that. He says, "The LHC is certainly by far the biggest jump into the unknown." And even Stephen Hawking has gone public saying the Higgs boson is inherently unstable. But these guys are crazy, I swear. Now I speculated a couple of times that the powers that be are trying to pull off a Götterdämmerung maneuver. And that's a kind of dog-in-the-manger, scorch earth policy. Because if the Illuminati know that they've lost and they can never have their new world order, then they'll drag the world down with them rather than let free people have it. I don't know for sure, but I think that's their mindset. And there are visual clues. Because CERN has a very unusual statue in its forecourt in Geneva, Switzerland. It's not Albert Einstein. It's not Isaac Newton. It's not any of those famous physicists. It's not even a bronze cast of Professor Brian Cox. It is the Hindu god Shiva. Isn't that a bit of an odd emblem to put outside a scientific institution? And also, if you look at the logo of CERN, it has the number 666 encoded into it. Just have a look. Can you spot it? Which, of course, was the number of the beast in the Bible, the Book of Revelations, the devil. So, and also, the LHC is just a scientific experiment, but security is unusually tight. To enter the working areas of the collider, staff must pass through a security gate which the retinas of their eyes are scanned. Not even fingerprinting is considered safe enough. Oh, it's really strange, isn't it? Very strange indeed. Now, Shiva is very interesting. The god Shiva, because Shiva is the most potent god of the Hindu pantheon. This is the creator-destroyer god, the god that levels everything and builds everything up again. And so, again, it's a strange thing to see outside a scientific physics institution, a laboratory. Anyway, I digress slightly, but it's important to give you a bit of background to what's going on. So, one of the things that even the physicists will admit that that when the colliders run at full power, 14 tera electron volts, its fullest power it's capable of, which it's building up to now. Within a few weeks of me recording this, it will begin collisions at its highest power. Even the physicists say they don't know they're not exactly sure what's going to happen. There's a possibility that there will be unknown, previously unforeseeable consequences. Now, one of those does involve interdimensional contact, and they've said this. So is that what the unidentified lying object is? And also, I should say, this situation is not without precedent. Objects have turned up before in places where they really shouldn't be, and in some cases where it's even physically impossible for them to be. Now, Janet and Colin Board are very interesting. They're a husband and wife team, paranormal investigators, and they've collected reports of these incidents. Now, one of these include a butterfly trapped inside a riveted gas meter, and a bird found inside a car tyre. And in their book, there's many, many more. And I've encountered something like this before involving a hamster, and maybe I'll talk about that another time. It's a big, long story. But they've written a good book, Modern Mysteries of Britain. It's out of print, but there's lots of cheap second-hand copies floating around on Amazon. And I wonder if there's a connection here with the objects falling out the sky. You know, the strange, the falling frogs and falling fish and things like that. That's a long story. But if something appears inside a completely closed-off container, then how did it get there? There's only one way. It must have arrived through a higher spatial dimension, as things did in the book Flatland by Edwin Abbott. This is a serious scientific subject. So these extreme collisions that the LHC is doing might have literally ripped a hole in space-time and allowed something out there to get into our universe. Exactly like this woman in Brighton reported seeing at Montreal Road. And that's that is a very hazardous, it's a very irresponsible thing to do. And I do wonder if they're doing it deliberately. Not that Professor Duruk knows about it, but perhaps someone else at CERN does. It could be that the unidentified lying object could be the first confirmed piece of matter ever found that has come from another universe. It's a bit like it's like the apports in spiritualism, or what the Tibetans call the tulpa. And it would indicate that the LHC is having the very interdimensional effects that I and others have long predicted, and that's an extremely alarming situation. I mean, what else can they conjure out of thin air? That's the question. we may be dealing with an object that's currently in quantum superposition, like Schrödinger's cat. It will remain that way until someone looks at it. So it may be just as well that the ULO is currently stuck inside the dark, cold interior of the LHC's vacuum torus, where it can remain invisible. But how much longer can that be? And what's the worst that can happen? I wonder. Well, this film is a 2007 horror movie directed by Frank Darabont, and it's based on a novella by Stephen King. Very closely follows the plot of that novella. And when I got this onto DVD, and I first saw it on TV, and I got it on DVD, my jaw dropped. Now it's set in this small lakeside town, a short distance from a secret government laboratory. And one night there's a terrible storm which blows trees down, and a thick mist washes over the town and reduces visibility to a few feet. And then bizarre and unearthly monsters appear in and out of the mist, and they begin attacking people. And the survivors have to take refuge in a supermarket, and they just sit there and wait for help. And inside this impromptu shelter, it's very exciting. They have to fight back the attempted encroachments of these monsters, and also their own rising panic and their own insanity. And then it's revealed by one of the survivors, who's an army guard from the laboratory, that the scientists there were working on an experiment to open a Stargate, a portal, just like the one in Brighton, just like the one possibly in CERN, between our world and a parallel universe. So this is a very, very frightening film, very scary horror film indeed, but it's also very thought-provoking. It's a thinking man's horror movie, or woman, of course. So I'm being culturally Marxist there. The idea that there are these parallel dimensions. Again, I've talked about this is very, very interesting. And I recommended this to Brian Allen, who's a friend of mine. He's a paranormal researcher, and he agreed with me that this is a very, very interesting subject. And he thinks this is, as I explained earlier in the film, this is where the UFO phenomenon may be connected to this kind of thing. And in fact, he considers the Rendlesham Forest incident possibly a rather more cuddly and less malign equivalent of the Mist. Although unintentional, of course. Possibly unintentional. But so what it is the close to where the strange object appeared in Christmas 1980. That is in Suffolk, near RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge. There was a secret military signals laboratory at Orford Ness, and it's since closed down at the end of the Cold War. They used to test nuclear triggers there as well, nuclear weaponry, and other experiments. Some of them are still classified. But the antenna is still there, and there's a huge antenna, which is too big to dismantle, and you can still see it today. These powerful radio transmissions from this station might have weakened or even broken the fabric of space-time that surrounds our universe, and higher dimensions have been now basically parts of our universe have been exposed to other dimensions and parallel universes, allowing the Rendlesham Forest UFO to slip through into our world, which gave Larry Warren and all the others such a shock. And it's interesting that in the Type 1 Radio Lounge radio show, which I talked about earlier, one of the hosts talks about the EM towers. Now, as I said earlier, Brighton is a very non-conformist place, and so it's possible that they've got a Green MP. It's the only place in the country that is a Green constituency. Their MP is in the Green Party. But so there's tight. I think there's probably going to be tighter controls on mobile phone masts. But she did mention the mobile phone, the electromagnetic radiation in that area. And this may tie in with the Clapham Woods phenomenon, which I talked about. So this is a situation. What happens is, I suppose the Mist is an extreme example. It's that the laws of physics could vary considerably in our universe, and our universe is one frequency line on an infinite, almost reality spectrum of material and spatial structures. You see, it could be the worst thing to imagine is that The Mist is not a worst case scenario. If you watch The Mist, I think it's on YouTube now actually, you'll find it's pretty scary. But we could be looking at something that, as Uncle Andrew said in the C.S. Lewis stories of Narnia, you could meet anything, absolutely anything. We could be at a point where we're faced with anything. We may have a machine that can do exactly, whether it's intentional or not, can do exactly what this fictional device did in The Mist. And I mean, if the worst thing ever happens, will we even be able to comprehend the terrible thing we've done? Or will we be unable to do that because the universe will cease to exist in a form that we know it? Oh, that's cheered you up. Sleep tight. No, I don't want you to have nightmares. I really don't. Because, as Gandalf said, there are forces for good at work in this universe as well as evil. And I think that I don't believe in messiahs. I don't believe we've got to sit around waiting to be saved by benevolent aliens or whatever, or the second coming of Jesus or whatever that is. I think we're masters of our own destiny. But I think the universe will step in and lend a hand if we really are up against it and there's nothing we can do. I think it will. And the LHC actually suffered technical problems a couple of years ago, very, very unusual ones that no one predicted, and no one could work out exactly what was wrong. And I wonder if that is the forces for good at work, fixing things to keep us safe. Because if there are forces for good out there who want to step in and lend a hand, I mean, I believe I'm master of my own destiny. I believe we humans are masters of our own destiny. But I will happily swallow my pride and accept the helping hand if one is offered. And so I don't want to make you despair, Hapanlo TV viewers. I don't want you to go home and just give up or be frightened and not be able to sleep or think anything like that. Because I feel confident and I feel safe. And something at the back of my head is saying, don't worry, everything's going to be alright. So, with that in mind, I shall say that I hope you enjoyed watching this Hapanlo TV video. Thank you very much for watching. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.